Welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I have a very, very special guest. Welcome to the podcast, India Oxenberg. I said it correctly, right?
Yes.
My wife says I always say names wrong. She's like, please don't fuck up her name.
It's easy to fuck up, so I understand.
Well, thank you for being here. And also, you hear the voice in the back. Derek's been, most recently because of the pandemic, we're both in bands. We both should be on tour right now. He's been like the co-host, such, and people.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the flavor.
Raving reviews of Derek on the podcast.
Thank you.
Your voice, and people love the combination. And you get the questions I fucking forget or miss out. You know what I mean? So
it's always good to have a partner.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Once again.
I want to thank you for being here because we only met on Instagram. I posted some stuff about your doc, which we're going to get to later, and I don't know. We started talking on there and stuff. And thanks for like actually coming to my house and like. I don't know, taking a chance of being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's an amazing space.
Thank you. This is all my wife's doing.
I love it.
She thinks she's Lucille Ball. Anyway, thanks for being here. I did a deep dive on you. First of all, people listening, if you ever seen The Vow on HBO, that's the first time I knew about everything we're about to talk about. And then she has her own doc called Seduced, which is on Stars, which my friend Chris Uvain told me about. I had to watch it, and then you watched it.
Yeah, and then I watched it. Incredible.
But before we get down, we'll take it back to your life before all that. Obviously, you were born in Malibu?
Yep. Well, actually, I was born technically here in Cedars-Sinai, LA area.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And then, so I'm born and bred Los Angeles girl. But I did make my way to Malibu with my family, and I went to school there.
Okay. And how was it growing up out here?
You know, it's weird.
Yeah.
I don't really know how else to say it because
Yeah.
unless you know, or unless like you've raised a kid here or you were, a product of LA, you don't really get how weird it is.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the weird elements?
I think also I grew up in a family of like entertainers. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, my life was always about, where my parents were going on location or like if we were going to go to the set and who we were going to see. And that was just became normal life. And that's just not normal life.
Yeah,
that's life in Hollywood. That's a very different kind of way to see the world.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, why I say it's weird is because now I have a little bit of contrast with my fiance who grew up in, Philly, had a really normal life, had like a mom and dad that met in high school and like
That's
all
awesome.
these good things that are so like, deep family roots. And I felt like mine was more of this exotic blend of, mom, princess, dad, actor, this, that, like, you name
Royalty,
it.
all that, yeah.
All that stuff. And it comes with a lot of perks, but it also comes with a lot of complications. And so I think, as I've grown up and as I've learned a little bit more about the world, I see how unusual that kind of upbringing is. And then I also get to connect with people who did grow up in that. And there's a real camaraderie. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
for sure.
I get you and you can get me. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, you have siblings?
I do. I have many.
Many?
Yes, I have a couple sisters, a stepbrother, and a stepsister who lives over here in Echo Park, who's an actress. And so she kind of took on my parents' line of work, and she's all in on that. And that was just never really for me. It didn't call me in the same way. If anything, I was more attracted to craft services than I was to being in front of the camera. But I always liked the producing and directing element, and I loved the control and just the fact that they could choose and they didn't have to be chosen. And I really liked
cool.
that. And I always remember just shadowing those people that I could find when I was growing up. So I kind of gravitated towards that and towards food. And I took a detour from, production, made my way into a cult, and then made my way out. And I was like, oh shit, this is all right, we're here. And I made my way out and back into production and back into food. So I feel like in some way it's all kind of come full circle, but I've had some detours.
Yeah. And how was growing up how were you as a kid? Like, were you a normal kid going to normal school, or is it?
Yeah, I went to public school.
Yeah.
I went to Malibu High. I'm dyslexic, so school was always a little bit of a challenge for me because I thought I was stupid, and I kind of, overcompensated with charm or just being friendly with my teachers so that maybe they wouldn't notice my horrible grammar or spelling. And that can only go so far. Right. So I think for me, I had a lot of insecurity when it came to going to university or just like school after high school. And I ended up taking a year of college in Boston with a boyfriend of mine who was going to Berklee College of Music. He was a musician. Oh, wow. And I was like, I'm going to follow him to the East Coast and be brave and be cold. And so I went with him, and he was a drummer. And I just ended up always being in the jam rooms and like underground of these Berklee dorms and feeling like this is not where I'm supposed to be. Not that I wasn't supposed to be there with the music, because I loved that and I was really into that. But
you can't see what band he was in?
Oh,
yeah.
It was no band. I don't even know what band he's in anymore. I think we had a bad breakup. So the poor guy, I mean, God bless him. But I think
if you're listening,
he was more into metal, and so like it kind of actually opened my eyes to. I mean, this is a little bit of a segue, but just like the beauty of how complicated metal is, and I just didn't think that. I just didn't know that. And he introduced me to that through his drumming and through guitar work and just like learning little things like what drop D was or what distortion was and like all of this stuff that kind of made me want to get back into production because I was studying how to take care of artists, basically entertainment management. And then I was like, why am I in Boston? I'm going back to LA. So I go back to LA. I'm feeling a little nervous and lost. So I go to my mom and I'm like, hey, I really need a little guidance here. And so I started doing a catering company with a girlfriend of mine from high school because I was good in the kitchen. I ended that relationship with the boyfriend, but not my love of music. And thank God, right? And so I ended up doing that work with her, and it was great fun. We like did little parties in Malibu and stuff, and catered Kate Hudson's baby shower. Like it was just, how Malibu is. It's very tiny community.
That's cool.
And cut to, a couple months later, a friend of my mom's tells us to go to this intro presentation that has apparently changed her life. And this was that friend that everybody has who's like, eat here, watch this, wear that. Like everyone has a referral friend.
Yes.
And you usually kind of trust them because they're your buddy. Yeah. So our guard was down. We didn't have really any reason to question her. She'd kind of guided us towards other interesting things. And so we went, and right at that point in my life, I was feeling a little low, kind of lost, and looking for structure. So in that intro presentation, it happened to be for NXIVM, but specifically ESP, which was their consumer front product, which was like a personal development course. And the way that they spoke about it, the things that they were promising, it all just was exactly what I felt like I needed at that point. And so I was really open, and I guess you could say pretty vulnerable to what they were suggesting. And I remember turning to my mom, and I was like, I want to do this. And she was in shock because I was 19 at the time and I was not making decisions very clearly. And she was like, holy shit, she just made a decisive decision.
Wow. I mean, what were some of the suggestions that they were putting in front of you that were making you feel that you needed something from them, that they had something that you didn't have?
Great question. So for one, they said that the tools that they had would eliminate past fears that were blocking us from moving forward. So that sounds kind of magical, but it also sounds awesome if it worked.
Absolutely.
So I was like intrigued. And then on top of it, I was surrounded by a group of people in this intro presentation who all looked really legit. And they were people who were way older than me and people with careers. People were clearly had something that I didn't have. And so I think it was less about what they were pitching and more about where I was in my life and what I was looking for, which was my own path. And I thought, like, at that point, I was feeling like I need to kind of push away from my mom a little bit and find myself. She's a very strong personality. And so there was a part of me that had this push and pull, like naturally we all do, especially if you have parents who are, they know themselves. They're confident. They can stand alone in a room. So I was right there at that point, and I thought that maybe this was going to be my roadmap to getting more clarity on what I was going to do in a career.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they were promising, like a practical MBA. And so everything that they said, even the languaging that they used, spoke to me, because I had just left college and I was like, oh shit, maybe I do need a practical MBA if I really want to achieve this stuff. So that was kind of their pitch, and I really bought it.
Yeah. What was your major in college? Like, what did you want to do?
Entertainment management.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. And so I was thinking that I was going to be an agent. I was like, I know actors. I've lived with them all my life. I can handle this.
Oh man.
So that friend was kind of like, in a sense, kind of recruiting you guys in a sense.
She was, actually. And what we didn't know at the time, and what I wish I did know, was that the recruiting process was something that they were being taught to do so that they could advance in the program. And that they were actually salespeople who were earning commissions based on their enrollment.
Yes.
Wow.
Got it.
So that we didn't know, which is a big red flag. Like, I'm not saying that all groups are bad.
No, but there's a lot of businesses that follow this model.
Exactly.
I know of one at the top of my head that I'm not going to say, but it's like, I mean, that I see that happens a lot.
Totally. And so, and some of them are not good.
Yeah.
And I think that all stems from the leadership. So if you've got a corrupt leadership, or if you've got some nefarious activity in the group that's being concealed by the consumer product, which was what was going on in NXIVM and in ESP specifically, then the person who's saying yes doesn't really stand a chance, because they don't know what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So
you're only 19, huh?
I was 19, yeah.
So how soon after you went to that first kind of conference thing that you like said, I want to do this, and then go to Albany? What was it?
A couple months. At first I was just thinking, I'm going to take this as a student. I'm just going to go absorb these courses, see how it helps.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of targeted to be a coach, which I wasn't quite interested in being a coach at that point.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually have a
But that was pretty quick. I mean, you said
Very
like
quick.
2 months. They're like, okay, so we're going to move you into a coaching position.
Yeah,
You're
and
like,
that's kind of how I felt. I was like, whoa, hold on there. I'm just learning.
right.
I'm trying to
Student.
find myself and find a path.
Yeah, but they were so persistent about it, and they were so encouraging, and they were really loving on me, and like telling me that I was a natural, and how great I was going to be at this, and how this was going to be the thing that was going to take it to the next level. And I was like, well, I guess I got to take it to the next level. But I was also kind of resistant to it, because I didn't really want to commit to that much involvement.
Yeah, you wanted to figure out yourself what's going on. Yeah.
So once you decide you're going to do it, the friend that was hounding kind of your mom to get you to go the first thing, did she start getting at like hounding you? Like, oh, we got her. So she started.
So how it works is sometimes the people that recruited you would not be the ones who were kind of, it's horrible. I'm going to say it, but would not be the ones that were grooming you for the next level. That usually came from higher ranking coaches who kind of knew what they were doing. The salespeople at like a beginning stage were really just trying to make commissions. So, I mean, it could be anybody. It could be someone who really needs a paycheck. It could be someone who really, really believes in this, or maybe had a significant change. So these are generally like good-hearted people.
Yeah.
They're not always scamming you. It's usually like the closer that you get to the top that you see the not good stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that first red flag you said was when they were trying to make you into like this coach very
2
quickly.
months in.
2 months in. And then, so at the very beginning, was there a payment that had to be made, at the
To
very
me?
beginning?
No,
like
to them.
to them. Like, was there money involved?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
In order.
So, of course, there's always money.
So, I mean, this is where I was like, okay, I want to know.
Yeah, it's not free.
Yeah, it's definitely not free, where it's like, so how did they work that in?
Okay, so they say, we're going to give you this course.
Okay.
And we're going to offer you 20% off, which means that you're going to only pay $2,500. And it's like, and you're like, wow, that sounds great. And really, it actually kind of did, because anyone who knows, who's been in like a group environment, knows how strong and powerful like groupthink is.
Absolutely.
So even if it's only in a small environment, you feel that energy to say yes and to sign up and to just like go for it.
All right.
And so I was kind of in that state, even in the intro presentation when they were saying the prices.
Right.
So I turned to my mom. And I'm like, so I want to do this with you, but will you pay for me and I'll pay you back?
Yeah.
I'm 19. I do not have that credit limit yet at all. And I'm like, shit, I can only put $1,200 on my credit card. And so, no, I mean, like, I was really looking to her for that initial support. And she was like, okay, if you pay me back, we'll do this together. I ultimately did end up being able to pay her back, but that's kind of part of how it works. Yeah. Once you become a coach, then you have to pay for continual education as well as part of your commitment to the group.
Right.
But on top of it, you're also training those classes. So you're taking them as a student, but you're also training them, and you're doing this all for free.
Wow. Man.
So another red flag.
Yeah.
Like, just don't work for free unless it's charity.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what I have to tattoo on myself next.
Right.
Like, because everything is worth something. And that was one of the most crippling things, is actually to work for years without compensation. Once I had left that environment, I had to kind of re-remind myself of what my value was, even in work and even in low-level entry jobs. Like, okay, so what am I worth on an hourly basis? Because it had been kind of distorted.
Right. Okay.
And your mom. So I know your mom was like supportive in the beginning. Obviously, loaned you the money for the course and starting. Did you stop talking to her about it right then? Once you knew that's what you wanted to do, were you getting advice from her about it? Or you just like, I'm 19, I'm going to do this. Like, she brought me to it, like. I
was more of that asshole, that that 19-year-old who is like, okay, thank you very much. Now this is mine.
My journey.
Yeah, this is my journey.
Step off, Mom.
Right. And I mean, like most 19-year-olds, where you just kind of think that you know everything.
Yeah.
And
my 17-year-old thinks that. Okay. But it's your path, your life. I'm gonna go and do this.
So what I didn't realize at that time as well is, as much as I was creating a little bit of distance, they were also aware of that distance being created, and that is part of how I was targeted.
Yeah.
And so that happens, and those people take you in, and they behave like they're your new friends, your new family that's going to help you on this journey that your mom doesn't understand. And so there was a little bit of that from the beginning that I kind of normalized.
And the cutoff, kind of cutting you off from that.
Yeah, and I wish that I hadn't.
That makes me so frustrating watching the vow, like how they kept cutting people off. And heard from her mom and how her mom was so worried. And I was like, listen, I was yelling at you, listen to your mom. She's so worried about you. Until like I saw like your doc, but like I'm just saying, like it was so frustrating to be a parent myself and see your child get caught up in that. It was so.
The amount of, like, before I came out and spoke about this stuff, the amount of messages that I would get from, parents and also trolls, like, you stupid little spoiled girl, you don't know what your mom did for you. And I'm like, hold on, like, who are you, first of all? You don't know what's going on inside of here. But it was a really scary time for us. I mean, I know I'm jumping forward, but that was a really challenging time because I didn't really know what was going on. I was still on the inside, and all these people were saying, like, get out, get out, get out. And I was, in there in Albany thinking, like,
fucking Albany. First of all, Albany.
Yeah, red flag.
Shout out to Albany. No, wait. I got a lot of friends in Albany, though.
Have you been there just like on tour a bunch of times?
I played a million shows. I got a lot of friends there. Shout out to my people in Albany. But it's just a random, when I saw it was in Albany, that's kind of random and kind of makes sense, too.
You're right.
And no diss to Albany whatsoever. Great. My dad was from Albany.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm saying, like, I have a lot of friends out there still listening right now. So yeah, anyway, but it was weird when I heard it was in Albany. I'm like, but it also kind of makes sense, like up in there in the woods, whatever, wherever it was. Yeah.
It was suburbs, so it was.
And you'd never
boring.
been there before. There's no way you've been to Albany before.
No, I actually didn't even know Albany at all. I had only ever been to New York, and I was like,
I thought New York was.
Yes, I know. It's so embarrassing. Only people from California can say that. But
yeah, Malibu's Albany. That's a culture shock.
Yeah, it was, and I actually there was a part of me that kind of enjoyed the simplicity of it.
Of course.
Because it was just like the same thing every day. And
the seasons and the winter and all that stuff.
It's nice.
Yeah.
But it was, I think if that was something I could joke about. Like, if anyone tells you to move to Albany, like, red flag. But but in all reality, I only went there a couple times in the very beginning to finish my courses and then to take level 2 trainings that they offered only in Albany. I was still living in LA for a long time.
Okay.
For about 5 years. I was in NXIVM but living in Los Angeles and helping Mark Vicente and some of those other people who we've seen in the other documentary. I was helping them build a center here. So that became my job and my full-time pursuit with no payment. So I was really just spending all that I had ever saved.
Wow.
And all that had been given to me for school from my grandpa.
Right.
And he had died. And so I was using that to support myself, thinking that I was moving forward when really I was just spinning my wheels.
Evil ass people, man. Makes me so angry. I was so psyched when I saw all these guys get locked up and you were there and you get to speak there and just, oh my God. Anyway, we'll keep going. But
yeah, because there's a lot of scammers out there. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to make sure was clear and seduced was like that there's cults and there's cons and there's coercion. And coercion really is at the root of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched some interview with you and I can totally relate because it's almost been my whole life. My wife's like, my wife's like, you see the good in everybody. You're an optimist. You're positive. And there are bad people out there, but I always see the good in people. I always think positive. And I saw you talk about that. Like if that's my default, if that's the only thing wrong with it, I see good in people. That's not a bad thing, but you wanted to believe in it and you wanted to have hope in it and all that stuff.
Right, and that can be used against
people.
people.
That's what I was just gonna
It's like kindness for weakness, same
right,
thing.
right.
Totally, man. Like
and people taking advantage of.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like I appreciate my fiance so much because I need that balance. Like I need a little bit more street smarts. I need a little bit more like
he's from Philly?
Yeah.
He got street smarts.
Yeah.
Philly.
And
shout out to Philly. We love Philly.
Philly.
And he's always like, no, that guy's lying. He's an asshole. And I'm like, what? How did you see that? We just met him. He's like, how did you not?
East Coasters have a different edge over people no matter what.
Do.
They see through the
Are
bullshit.
you from the East Coast?
We both. So they see through the bullshit. East Coasters,
Yeah.
easily, especially Philly, man.
Yeah, and so I think that's one thing that I've now learned that I need to be a little bit more aware of, and also that trust is earned.
Yeah,
and like not to just assume that you can trust somebody right away, but just let them show you.
But I think there's a lot. I mean, of course, there's going to be those trolls and people attacking and like, oh, how could you? You know, I think a lot of people don't realize how it is to be 19 again and what's going on in your head. And like you said, how you feel that, you know everything that's going to happen.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate that people are out there that can take advantage of that. You know, there's a lot.
Yeah.
That exists.
Of just nice people who like want to, change their lives and better their lives. Like,
right.
And there's a lot of, like, it doesn't really have to do with age or sex or any of it. It's just, it just happens to be that more women do fall victim to things like this because I think women are generally more open or more interested in spirituality or personal growth. So there's a lot of people who take advantage of yoga. There's things in yoga like the Bikram issues that are coming out now. Yeah. I mean, that we saw it with Harvey Weinstein, we saw it with Jeffrey Epstein. It's oftentimes that women are preyed on, but men are too.
Yeah,
true. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Not to talk about myself, but I did yoga once. I did Bikram.
I remember.
I did Bikram yoga. I'll make it short. I went to Bikram yoga, and I have a lot of tattoos, as you other listeners know. And the lady called me out for like. I wasn't doing the stuff right. I was slipping. It was hot. I was with this girl who was training us at the time, and I was having a rough time. And she was calling me on the microphone, Mr. Tattoo Man. Oh, rock and roll guy, like totally calling me out. I was like, this is not positive.
Right.
This is not spiritual.
That's not nice.
Fast forward to Monday at the carpool picking up my son. A couple moms said, "Oh, I saw you at the class this weekend. You had a rough time." So other parents were there. They saw me getting picked on in this class. So I never did yoga again.
That's horrible. I'm upset about that.
And the mat smelled like shit. It was just such an awful experience. And like, and you call me on the microphone, embarrass me because I'm a tattoo man. Like, it really bummed me out.
Oh man.
So I never did yoga again.
No.
I hope you told her about her mats, like your mats.
Yeah,
no,
your mats smell.
I think
your smelly mats.
I think that's normal. Anyway, maybe I should have brought my own mat.
No, I don't think that's normal.
No, they should be sanitized. I worked in a yoga studio once.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I was working in a yoga studio right before the pandemic, and we were in the middle of editing Seduced, and I was like, I need a job. And so I started working at Yoga Works, and then they closed down everything. And I was like, okay, now I'm unemployed.
Wow.
But no, and then
So you do yoga, obviously.
No, actually, I'm a boxer.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I'm a boxer.
My son is too. He's trying. Wow.
That's
cool.
I did it this morning. It's my
Nice.
favorite workout.
You do it at home?
No, I do it outside.
Okay.
With this guy named Johnny, who I absolutely love, and he's been coaching me since my birthday in June. I saw him on the street. I live in Marina Del Rey right now.
Okay.
And so I saw him just training people. And so we walked up to him, exchanged numbers, and I've been working with him ever since. And
Sick.
it's
a
like
sick workout, I'm
therapy.
sure.
And I did it through the press tour. I did it through the release. And he didn't
You
know.
found something. That's
and
awesome.
and he didn't know anything about anything. And he's some days I would just be wailing, like punching. He's like, oh my God, I'm really glad that's not me or Patrick or somebody in your head. So there was a lot of just tension and things that I needed to release. And so I rely on exercise heavily
Yeah, we do
for
too.
that.
That's amazing. You box. That's so cool. I would never expect that.
Yeah, that's my favorite
But
workout.
that's a
right
good
now.
release for you.
I have done yoga. Of course, my name's India. It would be like
Yeah.
a sin if I didn't. Like if I didn't do yoga, it would be a problem.
Have you been to India?
I have.
Oh wow.
I have. I went in my early 20s. I'd
That's
love to go
awesome.
back.
Yeah, I want to go
actually.
there. That's my wife's bucket list to go there.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's
I like
pretty
to go there.
shocking.
But,
Cows are walking. Cows are walking around there. Cows are
Yeah.
sacred.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
intense.
Oh yeah, it's
intense,
vegan
right?
heaven.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's intense.
But-
I went.
You been
one-
there?
I've been there. Yeah. We,
So you
we
saw
played
cows
shows.
walking on the street like dogs?
I saw everything on the plane ride over. They were just like, "This is the new India, not what you're thinking, with elephants in the streets and monkeys in the streets." And then we get there, and it's exactly that. I was like, "Yo, there is an elephant in the street,
Yeah.
and there are monkeys on its back." And there was
Most wild
it
place.
was
Wow.
out of. It was insane to me. It was the first time being in a place where I had complete culture shock.
That's exactly
I was
how
like,
I felt.
what? I felt so tiny,
Yeah.
insignificant. And just because there's just a million people just all over, billion of people just
Yeah.
like
It's
everywhere.
intense.
Billion, sorry.
Wow.
Intense. I've never, there's no other place
but
like
The
cows are-
smells, the
Everything.
temperatures, the air.
Everything hits you as soon as you step off the plane.
And
The
I felt like an
smell.
alien, also just being
Oh,
this blonde and
you
this
must
white.
have been
I was like,
I mean, they were, just really, really all over anybody that was like different or anything. I
Yeah.
had dreads.
Oh, you
then.
must look like an alien out there. Or
Alien.
something.
People, kids
The
were just
predator.
like,
You're the predator.
they're like, hey, like pointing, like, holy. Like, I had a million, like, kids,
And you're-
like, boys around me, like, taking photos, like, and I'm big.
You're
Yeah.
the
So
biggest
they,
person they saw. with
yeah, they were
dreads,
just
too.
like, yo.
but you have some Sanskrit on
Right.
your arm.
Totally. And they were just, like, really just, like, fascinated, like, pointing on the bus, taking photos, like, all the time, like, surrounding me, not even saying anything, just kind of, like, creeping up next to me, like, yes, my friend, I am taking a photo now.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow.
You're like, whoa, there's a dude right there under my armpit.
But it was that, yeah, all the time, like 100%
Yeah.
non.
And the big dreads. You must look
The
scary.
dreads, they were fascinated because there's like a class type system going on there, of course, and so if you're, I don't know, they really like look down on darker
Yeah.
skin.
That was the saddest part.
And
of
it's
that
really
whole-
sad. So when there's darker Indians there, they were kind of in the lower caste, but they were like, yo, this guy is big, he's dark, he's got crazy hair. And so the darker Indians and stuff were just like, yo, this guy is awesome. Like, they were
Wow.
really
That's
like,
cool.
I have all these incredible photos from there, but
Yeah, I remember it was the first time that I had seen a commercial about skin whitening.
yes.
And I was so disturbed by that. It's bleach.
It's bleach. Yeah.
And there was a
The big
woman
thing there.
smiling and she was like kind of tan, and then she turns white and she's like really happy about it. And I'm like, what? No. That is not okay.
Yeah, it's a big
and so,
thing there.
Yeah, it's a big cultural thing. I think most of Asia.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say there's other parts of Asia as well where this is like a big deal, like to lighten their skin. They get better jobs, better positions for
Wow.
certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's like a pressure out there for sure.
It's a weird thing. But besides all that, I mean, just the colors, the smell, the
food.
The food. Oh, my God.
yeah, that was the
It's
best.
really the best. Like people always
go
talked
there.
about, oh, you're going to get sick. And
I
I'm
ate
like,
everything.
I ate pretty much everything. I never got sick. Nobody in our crew got sick either.
And there's so many veggie options. It's insane, right?
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw
Spicy.
cows walking around.
all the time.
If you kill
sleeping in the street.
If you
like,
kill a
just
cow, you
chilling.
go to jail. It's like
Not necessarily. No, there's people that eat meat there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot. But at the same time, it's there's so many different cultures and history that's been going through there that you don't realize. It's an intense experience.
So long story short, she has an amazing name.
Yeah. Long story short,
so much.
And you've been to India. So.
I've been there. I love my name now. I didn't when I was a kid. I was like, can I just be Stephanie or Danielle or something? Like,
I just want to be a Jenny.
I just want to be a Jenny. I just wanted to not be teased, basically. But now I love my name, and I feel like I've grown into it.
Okay, let's get to Albany. So you said you were coming back here, and you were doing all that stuff out here.
Yeah.
Right, but when did you go to Albany? How old were you when you got there?
Okay, so I was in NXIVM for a total of 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
Give or take
7
a little more. So that's most of my That's almost all of my 20s,
my
nearly.
20s back.
I know. I've said that a million times. And so I'm 25 by the time that I moved to Albany, and it wasn't really a move. It was a forced move. So I was instructed by Allison Mac, who.
She's my least favorite.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
she was the woman that recruited me into DOS.
I'm glad she's in jail. I'm sorry.
Well, she's under house arrest.
Oh, okay.
So Claire Bronfman is in jail.
Okay.
Keith Raniere is in jail. Allison Mac, Nancy Salzman, and Lauren Salzman, and Kathy Russell are all still under house arrest. So nobody has a sentencing date out of that group yet.
And she's one who was the actress, right?
Yeah. And
super pretty, but very
she was on Smallville. I never watched
I
the
never
show.
watched it either, but I know exactly.
Yeah, and I was instructed by her because at that point I had been recruited by her to be into DOS, which was the secret sub sorority that was supposed to be just women mentoring women. And
how do you say that? What it really means? Because it's harder.
Dominus Obsequious Sororium or something like that.
So it's supposed to be like a women's sorority, like only for women only.
Yeah, and we didn't know that was the name. We didn't know that was what we were signing up for.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I'm instructed to move to Albany. So I leave all my things, everything that I had in my apartment, blah, 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 in my life in Los Angeles, and I relocate there. And I'm thinking that this is going to be like my new path and that it's going to help me grow. What I didn't realize was that was a strategic decision via Keith to have me live with Allison and ultimately kind of behave like a lure for other women to make them feel comfortable. None of that is knowledgeable to me at the time. So I just think I'm going and gonna be mentored.
Yeah. So how soon did that go from like that to be like having to do chores and like
pretty immediately
tell you what you could eat,
within, pretty much immediately, but it was a slow build up to that. And that's what I wanted to also make really clear and seduce, that like, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't just say yes to something like DOS overnight. This is me being indoctrinated and groomed for 5 years prior to then get to the point where I would say yes to something like that, thinking that it was good for me. And so it took a while, but the practices of DOS started very quickly. And Allison began with the like calorie counting, which then turned to restricted eating, which then turned to 500 calories or less. So they don't just say, now you're going to be starved. They say you're going to do this, and you're going to weigh your food, then you're going to count calories, then you're going to restrict them, then you're going to ask permission. So it's all like a gradual increase of control.
Okay.
I was going to say, were you happy during those 5 years before that? Did you ever question, like, should I be doing this or not?
Plenty of times. But there was so much pressure from the group and from the higher ranking members who are already established in the group that it was really difficult to leave. Even before I got into DOS, just as a coach, it was like a lot of guilt, a lot of pressure, a lot of shaming. Basically, if you were going to leave ESP in our minds, it meant you were bailing on yourself. You were bailing on your inner world.
Giving
and that's like a big fear to implant into people. And that's what these groups do. They implant phobias and fears in their members so that it's more difficult for them to question.
Yeah. And then they start hitting you with the clatter, with their photos, with like secrets.
That was specifically DOS.
Super evil, man. That's super evil.
And that's blackmail.
Totally.
And so that's when I wish that I would have been able to see, but I just couldn't.
There wasn't a red flag for you when you started saying, give me some photos or some secrets?
Well, yeah. But so the first, and I talk about this in the series too,
Yeah.
because I felt myself feel afraid. And I remember saying to Allison, like, I feel like you're going to hurt me with this information. I don't really know you, which was the truth. And then immediately she cut me at the knees, which was, how could you think that about me?
So evil.
Everything that you know about me and the program, everything that you know about Keith and what he does and what he's building in the world, the 5 years that you've just spent here, all this good work. And that was logical enough to me because I wanted to believe that what we were doing was good.
Yeah, but that was the first time you ever felt fear and
My instincts
yeah,
definitely.
first time the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, it kind of got smaller, and like my instincts and my intuition and whatever gut feeling I had got smaller and smaller and smaller until I could barely recognize myself.
Wow, man.
And who developed this idea of really the manipulation that they developed? Because it seems like it would take some time to really come to create something so sinister.
Yeah.
Probably Keith, right?
It is.
I mean, so did he?
He was evil.
Was it like trial and error? Was it like something that?
Yeah.
Okay, this is working, so we'll keep this in, and just kind of evolved into becoming.
So Keith, now that I'm able to look at this more
Right.
objectively, and I've gotten more information over these past couple of years and working on Seduced as well
Yeah.
and writing a book about this, I feel like I'm a little bit more informed about Keith's behavior and that this has been something that he's been doing for decades. So we were not special.
Right.
We were another science experiment to him. And what I found out while we were filming was that he had offered, I say in air quotes, a master slave contract to a woman 20 years before DOS was even in existence.
Wow.
So this is his thing. Like that's his MO. And he was basically boundary testing with whomever he could to see how far he could push
Right.
people.
Okay.
So we
Wow,
were targeted to be a part of that process. We were not special.
Right.
And I like to say it like that, even though it can sound harsh, because I think that anybody who is targeted by a predator needs to know that they're not specially broken. They're
Yeah,
not specially vulnerable. They might have been vulnerable, but it's not a character defect.
Yeah.
The person is preying on you.
Yeah. Yes.
They know
100%,
they
yeah.
know what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't. And so
Right.
I think that's something that I've had to learn for myself because I had so much judgment about myself. Like, how could I let that happen? How could I let that happen to other people that I cared about and I brought in? Like, you question yourself quite a bit when you make decisions that really do change your life.
Yeah.
Or change other people's lives. So I've had to do a lot of that kind of soul searching for myself and figure out like, okay, what am I responsible for? What was I not responsible for? What were the things that were hidden from me?
Yeah.
And so on and so
How
forth.
many times had you met Keith before actually moving to Albany?
Probably, I see like a dozen times.
Oh, okay.
But never really formally. Like
Yeah.
I saw him as the like executive principal of the school that I was going to.
Yeah.
Like I saw him in this elevated position, but I didn't feel like, oh, this is a guy I really want a relationship with. Like that was not my feeling
Yeah.
when I went to Albany. I was like, oh, this guy's kind of short and hairy and looks like a Teddy Graham. Like
Right.
he wasn't impressive to me in that way.
No.
It wasn't until I was in DOS and I was given that seduction assignment by Allison Mac and I was basically being forced to have a
Being
intimate
groomed for him,
relationship.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. That was when everything changed. That was not what I thought DOS was. I thought DOS was a kind of like
A girl club.
yeah,
wasn't it?
like
Yeah.
a girl club, but like intense coaching where we were gonna learn to be badass and tough
Yeah.
and
box.
and box and like all the shit that they said we were gonna do. I like do now in my
That's it.
normal
Right.
life
Yeah,
without
yeah.
fucking collateral. So it's
Yeah.
like clearly those were my types of
Yeah.
MOs. I mean, I consider myself a feminist. This was all just twisted to benefit Keith.
And
Right.
and when they started grooming you for him, were you pretty much? Did you feel like it was just you? There was no other girls involved.
Oh, yeah, and
So it
that's-
was just me, only me
That's
once.
what they do.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is my assignment. I'm going to get over this. I was really nervous because I did not want to seduce this guy. And this is going to be my big challenge. I'm going to show them how like brave I am and how committed I am to this group. And then it's going to be easy sailing from here. Like, that's what I was thinking. I mean, God, no, I was so fucking wrong. But
I'm a girl, he's short and hairy. I'm not going to think about that.
Right. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And because what I didn't know was that he was doing this to many women all at the same time in slightly different ways, but pretty much almost identical process. But what we were told was anything that happens with Keith, you do not speak about. You don't speak about it to the other women in your pod. You don't even have to speak to
because
Allison.
It's all happening to them too. So
yeah, and that's how
special.
And that's how he kept those secrets going. Damn. But it's not unusual if you look into it and you see like kind of predatory behavior.
Yeah,
it's like that, and it happens in families. It happens in work environments. It happens at schools. Like, it's bad.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you were doing all that and losing weight and checking calories and being groomed. How long did that actually last? Like, how long were you there?
I was there for about 2 years Albany.
And I think you got branded like in 2016, correct?
Yep. Yeah, in the winter of 2016.
Like just hearing this, seeing that in the dock, and all the girls are in there, and everybody has to get undressed and then taking turns at doing that. Like trying to even vision something like that is fucking crazy, man. And I know how it feels to get tattooed.
Yeah.
Let alone get branded.
I mean, they do this.
I have
like
tattoos too.
Fraternities and sororities, branding.
Yeah.
So I would, so.
But branding's no joke.
And there's no anesthesia. There's no numbing cream. There's no nothing. So it's scarification.
Yeah.
Because they use a cauterizing pen. It's not like what some people think where it's a cow
Right,
thing.
yeah, a cow brand. Like
That's not what it's like. But I have a weird story about that. When I had moved to New York City after the stuff came out in the New York Times, and I wasn't able to get work in Albany, so I moved to New York. I applied to like 20 different places, and that's when I got hired with Matthew Kenny Cuisine to work for their company. It's an all-vegan company.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And that's where I met my then boyfriend, now fiance, who is a chef for them. So
I didn't know he's a chef.
Yeah, he has been working with them for the past couple of years, but he just branched off to do his own thing.
Vegan,
now.
plant-based.
No, he can do vegan, but he's really traditional, so it's Italian pizza.
Okay,
awesome.
But yeah, we just did a pop-up in Venice.
I saw that. I know that was his. That's
that's
awesome.
him.
I saw that.
And I help, and I just take the orders because it's fun. And he makes the pizza. But anyways, we met there, and I just remember I was just so vulnerable at that point, and I just didn't know who I could trust, and I just buried myself into work.
Yeah.
And I remember one night when Patrick and I were just becoming friends, and we were talking, and he told me a little bit about the fact that he had gone to a school in the South where they did branding as part of their like fraternity pledging thing. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know about that." And he's like, "Well, why don't you show me yours and I'll show you mine?" And I was like, "What?" And literally like the blood left my arms. I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's going to think I'm fucking crazy." And so finally, like I do get a little bit brave, and I sort of show him my brand, and he's like, "Oh, it's not that bad." And so like everything about how he was with me kind of helped me realize that maybe there was someone who wasn't going to judge me.
Yeah.
Like maybe there was actually someone who wanted to hear it from me rather than hear it from the headlines. Because at that point, it was all over like the media, cult girl, sex slave, branded sex slave, like all these really, really difficult and challenging things to be branded with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you will, no pun intended. But
yeah.
it was hard. And so I think that's why I relied on him so much at that time, and I still do, is because he does not associate me with NXIVM. He knows me as India. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of like a lesson from this, is just like the things that we see on the internet, the things that we see online, or just like the veneer of people. Sometimes it's great to be so wrong about what you think about someone.
For sure, I agree on that.
And like I feel that way with you guys. Like I would never have met you maybe if we hadn't reached out on the internet, and I wouldn't know what kind of people you are. So like that's just a sidebar.
That's a positive thing about social media for sure, though.
Yeah,
it's connecting people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's awesome. And then you get your tattoo covered up in New York, huh? Who's the artist? You remember the artist who did it?
Yes, her name is Monica at Red Baron.
Red Baron, yeah.
They're in the Alphabet Streets.
Okay. Lower East Side.
Lower East Side.
Alphabet Streets. Never heard that.
Yeah.
Alphabet
That's awesome.
City.
Alphabet City, yeah.
And so they're
I never heard somebody
great.
say Alphabet Streets. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And
How does it feel getting tattooed over a brand?
Well, it has some numbness because the nerves have been damaged.
Right.
So when I could feel it, like that same kind of like scratchy feeling of tattoo, but it wasn't as intense as the brand, that's for sure. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near it. And I remember I love Monica. She was so great with me. And I was really scared to get tattooed because I didn't think that it would work over a scar.
Right.
So I asked her first, like, hey, I have and I wasn't allowed to talk about this openly at that point when I went to go visit her because I was working with the FBI. So I was a cooperating witness for 9 months. So when I approached this woman, I'm like, so I've got the scar. It's really bothering me. I would love to figure out how to cover it up. Do you think that we could design something together that would cover up every inch of it? And she was like, send me some pictures. So I sent her the pictures. We worked on it together. I was in Colorado at the time. And then I flew in to work with the FBI. And that night I went to go get the tattoo.
Wow, man.
And I was going to be working with them for a couple days. And so I went to Monica. We start chatting. She starts tattooing me. I noticed some Sanskrit on her arm. And I'm like, what's that? She goes, oh, long story. But I went to go get a tattoo. I thought it said love in Sanskrit. But this asshole guy put his name on me. And I was like,
What hood is this?
yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
she's a tattoo artist. She's, got dredged, gorgeous. And I'm like, well, funny that you say that. I kind of have a similar situation with my scar. I was told that this was a symbol of the elements, and it happens to be the initials of a real asshole. And so she was like, oh, well, I'm really happy to help you then. And so like that was as far as we left it. And I actually went back to that studio to film her during Seduced, but it didn't make it into the cut,
that was a cool
unfortunately.
thing
And just like show her how it healed and tell her the story. And she was like, oh my God, I had no idea that that's what you were going through at the time. And I was like, yeah, thank you
I
for
did
all
my
your
research
help.
on you, yeah.
And she is just so I'm really grateful for that because it has changed my feelings about the brand because now I can look at myself even if I'm naked and not feel like ugh, which is like how I used to feel about myself. Now I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like,
So when you get branded or you're about to get branded or after you get branded, did you realize like, okay, this is weird or this is just element symbol? Like, this is the next step? I'm starving. I'm skinny. I haven't ate. I'm fucking doing chores.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting branded.
So I remember before we got branded, I was like, do we have to do this? Because there was a part of me that was like, do we have to do this?
Right.
And like, at least that was still intact a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And Allison said yes. So once
She got one too?
Yeah, she has one.
Okay.
So once again, it was just like me realizing that I just didn't have control. Like I did not have a say in if I was going to be able to do something or not. Ultimately, it was Allison's decision. And so they spun it for us as if it was going to be this empowering moment where we were going to get branded with the symbol of the elements and it was going to bring us all together. And in a way, it kind of felt like that. Like it was like we were going, it was a sisterhood. It was like we were going through this really difficult, challenging, painful thing and we were all going to be doing it. And there was a certain solidarity in that. And I was kind of out of my body though. And I remember, and you're right, I was sleep deprived, I was food deprived, and so were the other women. And so I remember watching myself get this brand and thinking, oh, this is going to be a lot bigger than a quarter.
Yeah.
Which is what we had been told. And it was large. And so I think that was a moment for me where I just kind of had to convince myself once again that what we were doing was good because I could feel that, like, that moment of questioning. But I had to override it and, like,
be strong.
Be
and
strong
with the ladies and
this
who
is
went
good.
first?
Me.
Oh shit, that's right. You did go first.
Yeah, I did.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So it was, and like some of them, another woman who sadly is still in, and she's loyal to the group.
And
Even after everything.
Even
that
after
happened?
everything, and she was one of my closest friends, and the branding was very, very scary for her, and I remember watching that, and I was kind of dissociated, so I was crying, but I wasn't feeling fear at that point. I was just kind of like the adrenaline.
I remember the doc. She was your close friend. I remember this now.
Yeah, and so my close friend She's still in.
So how many people do you think are still in there?
Probably about, I mean, in there, I don't know if there is a there
there
anymore, but I think that there's still people practicing different techniques and tools and check-ins and readiness
But there's
drills.
no DOS anymore.
No, there is.
Wow.
So
What? People listening, you have to watch these docs.
yes,
Man.
and
I didn't
that's
know
the
that.
crazy part. And actually, I just found out yesterday that Nikki Klein went on a podcast and even promoted DOS, and they, as a website, they call it the DOS Project or something. It was too hard for me to look into, but you can find it online.
Well, so
It's too sad to
wow,
see that they're
man.
still so committed to it, and I'm like,
and there's so much information out. The dude's in jail for 120 years.
yeah, and they've had to compartmentalize to an extreme, because either they truly believe that Keith is still good, or they just do not want to confront what
Right.
me and many other people had to confront,
Right.
which is the reality.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and how soon after the branding, or how soon after the DOS stuff and losing weight and all that, did you realize, like, did it have to be when you got arrested? Like, when did you really realize, like, I gotta get the fuck out of here? This
Yeah,
is...
I wish it was sooner.
But you were
it
still there
wasn't.
after you got arrested. That's right.
Yeah, I was still in until after Allison was arrested. So Keith was arrested in March.
Yeah.
Allison was arrested in April. I was still pretty in, but I was trying to separate myself because, you know, at that point I had my job. I had like some uncult friends.
Are you making money too then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like,
okay.
I'm working at the vegan place. I'm managing
Okay.
the little cafe.
No, I'm saying, did you make money in Albany? Did you make any money there?
No. No, I sold like some vegetarian meals here and there, and I made money like that. But
Wow.
that was about it.
That's what I was going to ask as well. It's like, who, at any point, was anyone making any money being a coach? Or, because
Yes.
I thought there was a way.
There
To
was.
level up.
Yeah.
So in their, what they called the coach path,
Mm-hmm.
you were able to make money once you became a proctor.
Okay.
And a proctor was someone who had an orange sash, like Sarah Edmondson
The different
Right.
was a
sashes in there.
proctor. Mark Vicente was a senior proctor, which is
Right.
green. And those people were able to make money. How much, I don't know.
Right. I was curious, like,
but-
how did they figure that out?
But they were
Like,
able to, you know, maintain a certain lifestyle
wow.
that way.
Okay.
And people did that through sales too.
Right. And they get a percentage.
I
of
was a
it.
shitty recruiter, and I never was able to make the mark. I mean, like they said, if you make, I think it was something like 6 people recruited in under 6 months, then you could get to be a salesperson. But then you had to maintain your sales status, and I was like,
Jesus.
And they
it was really
So
hard.
you put a lot of pressure on yourself for sure, right?
Oh yeah, I was calling everybody. I was like, my mom called me. Like a Mormon going out and trying to recruit everyone, and I was like, it was embarrassing.
And your mom was reaching out to you the whole time, and you weren't talking to her at all? Or?
Well, I was distancing myself from my mom, and then when I moved to Albany and I became involved with DOS, I really restricted communication because it was just too hard. I was living like a double life,
yeah.
and I had this whole secret life that I was existing in that really felt like my everything, and then I had everything else on the outside.
Meanwhile, your mom's a badass. I'm gonna give her so many props.
She
Like,
is.
just seeing her fighting for you the whole time, and just, man,
She
just
is.
watching the whole thing. I'm like,
It's
yeah,
a
get her. You have to
serious
get her out.
fight.
Yeah, it was
And
like
and it seems
never
like
giving up on you, man. It's like,
from watching also both docs, it seems like your grandmother was just like from the very beginning, like,
Yeah.
this is bullshit.
Yeah, she
And I
was.
was like, you're my favorite.
She's-
She
No,
was just
she
like,
was.
I'm calling bullshit on this.
I love her.
She was amazing.
She's the best.
She's so, I was really,
She is a no bullshit person. Like,
yeah,
she
I could, coming from Europe, and
dealt with
especially her background.
communists.
Right, that's what I
She's
was saying.
like, fuck
Yeah.
Keith.
Yeah.
yeah.
I dealt with Nazis. I dealt with
Right.
communists. I dealt
That
with
was like
this.
something that really struck me. It's like, she knows what she's talking. She can smell bullshit
Yeah.
instantly. You
Yeah.
know,
She
there's
can.
no doubt about it. It's like she had to deal with serious reality.
It's like she was from Philly or something.
Yeah, you know, it
She
was
was.
pretty impressive.
Baltics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
the
was.
Baltics.
I remember that. He's right. She was.
And she's like from a Serbian
She's a
background.
princess.
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's
And-
really intense. you
Yeah,
know?
and so she did call bullshit, and my mom is amazing, and she did fight for me, and I
Oh,
now
yeah.
have, I mean, like my respect for my mom is
Absolutely.
just through the roof.
I believe it.
And my gratitude for her as well, because I'm now experiencing, like in a small way, what she experienced just in trying to get some of these laws changed, and
Yeah.
trying to
Right.
work with law enforcement or trying to work with people who are leaving high control groups. And it's so difficult because there really isn't a space for this yet. There's no money in it. So there aren't a lot of resources, unfortunately. The only angle that most people, or the only recourse most people have, is through human trafficking funds.
Yeah.
And so cults specifically don't really generate a lot of interest for people because there is no money in it, because most often people leave and they're destitute, so they don't even have the money to pay for therapy, which
Right.
Because
in
the
a
cult
lot
takes everything.
they need it. And I know I needed it.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember where you were when Keith got arrested in Mexico?
I was in Soho.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was walking to work. So every day I used to walk from Brooklyn Heights to the East Village.
Nice. I miss walking.
Yeah.
I was living in New York.
And it was
walking.
like my 8 miles of quiet by myself, and it was great. And I could just like cry. And that's the thing that I love about New York too, is nobody cares. If you're that one lonely girl on the bridge crying by yourself, you're just like one other person. And that I loved. I was like,
Yeah.
and I needed that because I was feeling really bombarded.
It's crazy. I'm feeling lonely in New York City too.
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's like, and I would just blast music, and
What kind of music?
I had a couple anthems actually. Strangely, one of them was "Maybe I'm Amazed" by Paul McCartney.
Great.
And I remember blasting that in my ears when I would walk over the bridge and just screaming it because there's traffic and no one would hear. And there was something about the music for me. And there was another Hallelujah also was another one. I felt like I just needed music to connect me to my soul.
Yeah.
Because I had felt so disconnected from myself, and that was something that I used to use when I was a teenager to feel peaceful.
Were you listening to
Absolutely.
music in Albany? You listen to music? You
No,
guys have dance parties or anything?
Well, yes and no, but I was not like it wasn't my style.
Uh-huh.
I know I really lost myself for a while, and it was hard for me to come back to myself, but I used things like food, like music, like all of that to kind of
Yeah.
get me back to my soul or whatever.
Right.
When you left Albany and went to New York, were you psyched to eat like some New York pizza finally or something?
No, because I was still under like a really restricted diet, even though I wasn't reporting to Allison because we had kind of stopped. Do you want me to wait?
Sure. Get out of here. I want to get a slice of pizza, man. I'm fucking starving. I'm finally out of this thing in Albany.
no,
Like,
I wish, and that didn't happen right away because I was under. So the investigation was really active at that point. I didn't know if I was going to be arrested. I didn't know if I was going to need to work with the FBI. At that point, I had no relationship with them. It was so I was under a lot of stress, and I wasn't taking care of myself very well. And I was, moving in the middle of the night, trying to like get out of Allison's apartment, finding storage in Chinatown. I was kind of a mess, and I was doing it all on my own until Patrick came into my life and offered help, and I was still like, no.
Right.
But then I started to let him help me a
it
little.
must have been hard to trust
It
people.
was.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, like, your mother was really, you had a split pretty much. You weren't really talking with her.
Yeah.
And it must have taken a long time to get that relationship back.
Oh,
I mean, because she
yes.
was really, a lot of people, I guess, weren't seeing it from your perspective, where she was putting your shit out there.
Yeah, I
and
felt
you're
like
yo,
everyone-
what the fuck, Mom? Like, chill.
And that's what I felt like.
Putting up
when
books and docs.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
it was
this is my-
scary. And I was there in the East Village at that point. Like when Keith was arrested, I was walking to work, and my boss calls me, and he's a New Yorker, like born and bred. And he goes, yo, your boy, he's been arrested.
Your boy.
And I was like, my boy?
This is how we
That's just
talk.
all we
I
talk.
was like,
Like, yo, your boy is
Yeah. And I was like, my
I saw him in
boy?
the news.
And he's like, yeah, Keith. And I was like, oh shit. And I didn't feel sad. I didn't cry. I was in shock.
You're right.
Because I was like, whoa, this shit's real. But it still wasn't registering what shit was real.
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
it was just like something was real, but I wasn't all there yet. I wasn't quite there.
For some people, that would have been a closure. But for you, it's like, no, I'm still.
No, I was still in limbo. And so he's like, I was like, should I go to work? And he was like, probably not. Because they knew that it was going to get swarmed. Like, the cafe was going to get swarmed with paparazzis, probably trying to say, like, what do you
Yeah.
think, cult girl? Like, your boy. Like, whatever, like something horrible. And I just couldn't handle that. So I went over to my boss's house, and he was like, okay, well, let's just order some snacks and eat cartoons. So we end up
What are
just
stacks?
snacks.
Oh,
snacks.
so,
Yeah, and he was like,
I was like, yeah.
No,
I got
no.
some stacks.
I was like, no, that would have been cool. I was like, you want to pay me some more? Sure. But no, he wanted to just order some food and hang out and watch cartoons. And I thought that was kind of what I needed that day.
Right.
And so cut to Allison gets arrested in April. My mom reaches out to me in June.
Okay.
And we start to mediate with a woman who is a deprogrammer. And that sounds weird, but that's a real thing.
I believe that would be necessary.
And it was, because we were literally speaking different languages. I was speaking cult talk, she was speaking reality.
Right.
And, but a scared reality, like when your mom's terrified that you're going to do something bad. So already I was kind of on the defense, like, Mom, you just put everything out there. Everyone's looking in my underwear drawer, and I feel totally exposed. And
she really did.
Yeah.
But it worked.
And it worked because the reason that she did that, and what I had learned after I left, is she did that for me as an act of love.
Yeah.
Like as a way
absolutely.
to show me and the world that I was also a victim of this man when I couldn't even admit that to myself.
Right.
So even though that was hard because I felt so foolish and felt so embarrassed and thought like, how am I going to come back from this?
Yeah.
I really wanted to just kind of like run away to the mountains and leave all of this behind and change my name. But I also knew that that wasn't really an option.
Right.
Like that I was going to have to deal with this one way or another. And I was going to have to take this back into my own hands. I just didn't know how that was going to be or what it was going to look like. But I just started to write.
Right.
And then
Very therapeutic.
That was therapeutic for me. And that was like my first... I was writing, I was working with a deprogrammer and a therapist and rebuilding that trust with my mom.
Yeah.
Like you said, because one of the things that the cult was very good at was disconnecting people from their feelings of loved ones or things that were kind of in the way of your loyalty to the cult.
Yeah.
So they would advise you to do an EM, and we talk about that in the series as well. And I did probably just like hundreds of EMs on just my mom. And so my feeling of my mom had been just changed. And I remember when I came back to California, I had left New York, and I was living in my mom's rental house in Malibu. And it was the first time that I had been with her in years.
Yeah.
Really.
It's like you were strangers.
It was like we were strangers, and I felt so nervous to be around her, and this is my own mom.
Yeah.
And I remember one day just like breaking down to her and saying like, I don't know what's going on with me. I know that I love you, but I can't feel it. And I literally couldn't feel it. And it was so scary, and it threw me into a really deep depression because I didn't know how I was going to get my love back.
Yeah.
And
that's heavy, man.
it was scary. And I just remember feeling so unstable emotionally and going to really dark places, feeling suicidal, like all these things. And I didn't realize that I was also kind of, that's what you have to go through. It's like you have to go through a death.
Yeah.
And so I'm there in the middle of that going like, what is going on? Am I losing my mind? Am I schizophrenic? Am I fucked up forever? Like, I just didn't know. And like how complicated recovery was going to be and continues to be, but I have a better handle on it now.
Great.
Your mom's a fucking badass superhero, though, man.
It's really happy to hear that relationship is.
Me too, because
it's a process of
And she was there with me the whole way, but it was scary for her too because
I'm sure
she had her own trauma from me,
right.
and like what I had done to her while I was under the influence of the group, and the way that I had treated her and the things that I had said to family members, and all of that has to be repaired.
Yeah. And just think of we're both parents. Just think about like your kid being something like that, like, and just losing them.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with you. There's a wall and just
something.
That's your baby.
Right.
But
Yeah. Something that you don't ever want to accept. It's unacceptable. Like, I mean, they can see the conviction that your mother had. Like, even people weren't paying attention at first,
right? Or
which
thinking
was like
she was crazy,
which was really frustrating to watch in both docs. It was like, yo, these people aren't really taking her seriously, and she's doing the talk show circuits and everything that in her power, man. But she never gave up.
No, and that's my mom,
right?
And so that's one of the things that I have learned from her after the fact is just how many no's she got throughout that whole journey. She's like, the government at a certain point was so useless to me that I had to go to the media. And so she tried. She called Washington. She called.
Yeah.
She
And
called
she's got
every.
a lot of friends.
Yeah, she's got a lot
sure.
of friends. She's called FBI agents. She called
And royalty.
human trafficking. She called every resource that she could get to, every legit resource that she could get to, turned her away.
Wow.
And so that was her last recourse. And I didn't realize that because I didn't know what my mom was going through
didn't.
while I was on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just now cut to her being on TV, and I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
But I didn't know all the work that she had done in order to even get to that point.
Sorry, so where were you when she went on? She went on and started saying that stuff when she first came out.
I was in Albany.
Wow.
Wow, man.
Yeah, but
Quiet. And who told you about it? Like did you have television there? Like you watching?
I had TV.
You had a phone?
Yeah, I had a phone. We had computers. We had all of that. It was pretty monitored.
Yeah.
But it was, we had all of that. It was actually Allison who even showed me the New York Times and, did that whole, it's fake news, fake news, fake news.
She's the one that bothered me the most, man. Just for a second, just because she had such like a cute, pretty demeanor, but she was like so evil and just everything. I
think
she
she
made me
really
so
got
mad.
broken.
Yeah.
I think
it
she
seems
really
that way.
got broken. And I really don't think that she had much of herself before she met Keith.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how sometimes there's those people who for instance, she was a child actor. So this is just my theory, and I write about this a little bit in my book, but I really do believe that she had always been trained to be directed, and she had always been trained to become what the director wants. And so I really do think that that's what she knows.
Yeah.
And that when Keith targeted her for NXIVM because of her celebrity
It's like
status,
perfect.
I think she was so open to being molded by him because she believed that he was doing something good. But really, he broke her into a very, very dark and disturbed person. I don't know how much she had that already in her. I don't know how much.
She was just like a shell of herself. It wasn't really her anymore.
That's
Yeah,
kind of what
I
it
think
felt
she.
like.
I mean, it seems like that's a great observation that she seems like she went in already like really not having any self as far as like knowing who her true self.
She wanted depth. I remember her
Right.
talking about that a lot. Like, I've always been in this world my whole life. I really want a deeper, more meaningful
okay.
existence. So
Connection,
I
yeah.
feel for her in a way. Like I feel for her as a broken person, but
yeah.
I also
I think there's a lot of people that have this feeling, of course, but it's just so
But then there's-
scary that these person's just preying
vultures
on
just
us.
come
It's
in,
just
yeah.
like really.
that's when you have to draw the line. And
Right.
like, thank God I didn't have to do that. And that was the job of the government to say like, this is victim, this is
Right.
perpetrator.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But really there is a line, and there are things that she was privy to that I was not.
I see.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of shows you like how much does someone really know.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask you, was there somebody that was like, okay, we're gonna do the brand? And you're like, hell no.
Yeah.
They were like, I'm nuh-uh.
Some people
See
refused?
ya, I'm done.
Yeah, but I mean, they went after us.
Okay.
Nobody refused in our group because
You had to. It's mandatory.
it was
right?
mandatory.
It was mandatory.
But there were people who had, so like in the DOS setup, it was a master slave dynamic.
Right. It was
Allison
like a
was
pyramid
my
type.
master with three other women in that group, and we were under her. Damn. She was really tough, and she was like a more aggressive master, like more abusive, both verbally and with her punishments. Other people were not that way. Some people were more lenient. Some
Yeah.
people were not as aggressive. So it just like really depended on the person, like the Stanford Prison Project.
Yeah.
So very similar.
Right, good
You see
cop, bad
people's
cop.
true nature come
Right.
out when they're under stress, when they're put in a position of power.
Yeah.
And so like for me, there were certain things that were just too uncomfortable for me to impose on somebody else, that I rather take the punishment on myself and maybe give somebody some bullshit assignment that made it seem legitimate. Like, oh, go journal for a couple hours. And there are certainly things that I did that I have had to question and
Yeah.
repair with people, like ways that I've spoken to people that I don't like. But I never took it to where Allison took it.
Right.
And that was
Yeah.
in a different level of abusiveness.
When you guys all got brandy, after that, it was like, how you guys doing? You guys okay? Like everybody's got like these.
I mean, she wasn't mean to us after. She
Were
like
you guys in
gave us
pain? Like everybody, like how you feeling? You see the girls next. How you guys feeling? How's your brand?
Really?
Wasn't like that.
No, I mean it kind of.
Yeah.
But it was all secret.
Yeah.
So like you had to be as covert as possible in when you were communicating about those things in public.
And how soon after having it did you know it wasn't elements? That it was his initials?
Way too long. I mean, that I didn't know that until it came out on the Frank report.
Wow.
Or like I didn't know until it came out in the media.
Oh my God.
And then even then we were being told that that was fake and they were doing that to sensationalize. And so there was a part of me that was just kind of like, I'm going to stick with the elements story because that feels better. But then when I moved back with my mom was when I listened to those tapes that we show in Seduced. And that was like a holy shit moment for me where I couldn't go back and I thought, oh my God, wow, everything that I thought has been now confirmed the opposite.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so you start questioning yourself once you're out of there with your mom, you're away from it, you're like,
well, yeah, I mean,
was that just a specific moment where you realized, holy shit, I wasn't when did you realize, like, holy shit, like that was all lies and bullshit and a scam?
In stages.
right.
Not all at once. So like even that moment with the tapes was a big moment. Then continue to work with the FBI for 9 months. Many big moments of holy shits.
Mm-hmm.
But
so you started coming to reality.
But it's like some people have said that they have this aha moment where like everything crashes around them and they see the truth. That just wasn't how it was for me. It was more in stages of absorbing the truth and like internalizing it. And I had to kind of take it slowly for myself just in my own healing because it's too much to kind of process all at once. So maybe that's just my style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then you're out. He goes to he's already in jail. Allison goes to jail. You're out. You're in Malibu.
No, Allison is under house arrest in Long Beach. He's being held, and then we go through the whole trial for months, and then he gets sentenced in last October. So it really took a couple years.
And she's on home arrest and waiting to go to trial, kind of thing. Or?
Yeah, she's waiting to be sentenced. She's already gone through part of the trial. She took a plea deal of guilt.
Oh, she did.
She said that she was guilty, and I don't know what her deal is, so I don't know what her sentencing is going to be. No, that's not information that we get.
Right.
Yeah, but she never reached out to you ever again.
No, she's not allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, by court order.
She didn't speak to anybody from back then or anything.
I reached out to a couple people who I thought maybe I could help, who were on the border of wanting to see the truth, but I don't speak to people who are still loyal because it's just not healthy for me.
They would be like broke by now by spending all their money
But they kind of support each other. Like,
oh, really? I see.
Yeah. So, and I think some of them are still able to maintain jobs, but really the saddest part is just like a lot of life lost and a lot of life dedicated to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So,
would you ever get back into acting again?
Meh.
Well, I don't want to skip over that because you've been in. Well, first of all.
Well, because Seduced, it's easier. It's almost easier to be yourself.
Yeah,
but
that's
Seduced
true.
was not easy.
I'm sure.
Like, who was the person that was like? So there's 2 documentaries that people probably need to know, and we watched
The Vow.
The Vow first, and it was great. It really brought in like it was like, wow, this really happened, and it was really
for me. It was a little bit too long for me.
It was really long. That was the one thing I was like, wow, okay, let me get up for my second session.
Yeah, well, you're here.
Here we go.
We're here in quarantine.
Yeah,
it's true.
Here we are.
Yeah, how many episodes is that?
9, I think.
It was 9, and it was like really by like the 5th, I was like, I kind of got a really good idea where this is going. But it was I was really into it. I love documentaries, but I was
going
like,
from the Tiger King to that.
Right, yeah, which I was already like, this is horrible. And then it was but going into this, I was like, I'm a person that can sit and watch stuff like this. Me too. But I was like, I don't know if any average person that's going to be able to like endure like that many episodes. Then we heard about
Seduced. On Stars. So then we both got subscription to Stars because
I was like, I got to get the subscription.
I got to cancel my
I have one too because I also really love Power. I don't know if you guys have watched.
Which
It's
I got
amazing.
into too.
I've watched
50 show,
all
I
of
watched
it.
all of it.
Do you guys know him? Because
I don't know.
We know of
I
him.
think
We
his
know.
producing is amazing. And
I thought the characters,
I love him, respect him. Yeah.
Storyline. It just drew me in, and I
And
watched
so that's-
all the Powers.
So my fiance and I, that's our thing.
Okay.
And we watched that. We watched all of them. So now we still have our Stars subscription.
Okay.
Yay,
Still
Stars.
have it too. And then we watched that one,
And I just loved
and
how
it was like
for,
really it was great hearing
to
it
the
come
point.
from your
Perspective.
perspective. You're in your mom's perspective
Yeah.
and more of your grandma. I was like, big fan. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, now I see like a much more clear,
Me too.
distinctive picture of like how this all could have taken place and how it was a process.
Yeah.
Like this is like a really sinister, thought out,
Evil.
manipulative process
Yes.
that went down. Like it was like this person had so many times to like turn away to let people like be
I
free and
know,
everything.
man.
And it just didn't happen. It was
Yeah.
getting worse and worse and worse. And it's just
So evil.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like how, like,
He had to keep upping it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I love that your mom were united in doing this because
Yes.
it
Oh,
bummed me
man.
out that like
Yeah. That,
you were so separated in the vow and like you weren't trying to hear what she was trying to say and she was trying to save you and we all saw that. You didn't see that, but then seeing you together and seduced and maybe
Yeah.
as a dad, I'm a very emotional person. Just seeing you guys together, united, all that made me so happy. You know,
Yeah, because there was no closure on that storyline in that.
there
in
wasn't
that,
at all.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't involved in that project.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
that's what I was
really
gonna
I
ask
was only
next.
involved in Seduced.
Yeah.
So I understand why there wasn't that closure because they weren't following the story as
who
closely.
brought that idea of doing a second, to do Seduce? Like who came?
Oh, so Cecilia Pack and Imbal Lesnar are my producing partners on amongst a couple other people for Seduced.
Okay.
And they had done a couple other projects that were also female focused. I mean, they've done lots of things, but
Yeah.
documentaries specifically, one called Brave Miss World and the other called Shut Up and Sing with the Dixie Chicks.
Oh.
And
yeah,
so
right. I
they
checked that
and
out.
so Cecilia directed that as well. And so they had a vision of exposing NXIVM, but really focusing on women and their voices
Yeah.
and
And
them
they came
saying-
to you.
They came to me.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not
I don't
ready to
know.
talk.
Right.
I don't like anybody. I
Right.
hate the media.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were
Oh,
like,
blame
no.
Understandable.
But then when they started to share more about their vision and their pitch, I was like, wow, actually, if there was a place for me to share my story, this would be it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I trusted them and I trusted their style of filmmaking and the amount of care that they gave to their subjects. And they wanted me to be a producer with them because they
Excellent.
wanted me to walk them through just my thought process and what was going on every
Yeah.
step of the
It's
way.
super important to see that,
And so we worked together through that. And they had already started on a project and they had included the other women who you also see in Seduced. And then they ended up making my story and my mom's story kind of the spine of the project and then using everyone else to support those ideas, like the experts that we had involved and the other women.
Yeah.
But it was challenging. And my mom worked on The Vow before I was even out because she
Wow,
was
that's right, yeah.
she was working with all those other incredibly brave people
Yeah.
who had left
Okay.
even before I did. They saw the truth. And
Right.
so like the amount of work that they had to do to get themselves to the point where they could see that and that they could leave and they could start to rebuild their lives. Like I just have tremendous respect for
Yeah.
that, for them and their bravery.
Yeah.
And some of them I'm still in contact with, some of them I'm not.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot to leave.
Your mom
Yeah.
had the Lifetime special, right? Escaping NXIVM
Yeah,
cults.
they took from her book.
Okay.
So we weren't really involved in that.
Okay.
I was definitely not involved in that, although they used my name. And I remember one day I was like scrolling through Instagram and I see an ad of it, and I'm like, the girl who played me is saying like, "Hi, I'm India," and I was like, this is so fucking weird. Like, what is my life right now? And then I turned to my fiance. He's like, "Yeah, let's get some pizza."
Yeah, right.
Sometimes you need to balance it out.
And then you have a book too, Still Learning, your memoir that came out last year, right?
Yeah, actually, it came out on Keith's sentencing, which I was like an extra fuck you to him, which felt
That's
kind of
amazing.
awesome. But it was a big moment for me because
Yeah.
that was the day when I went to share my victim impact statement.
Yeah.
And I read it in court to him with
That was
I was there
powerful.
with
Wow.
one of my closest friends, and she spoke before I did, and she was really empowering for me.
Yeah.
So I felt good, but it was scary and it was
actually
hard.
Scary. Yeah, I can imagine.
It was.
It's like facing your killer, kind of. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
was really intense. Like, I was definitely shaking while I was reading.
Wow.
But I had practiced the night before and the morning before, and I was like, okay, India, anyone can do anything for 8 minutes. It's 8 minutes long. You can do this. Like, that was my coaching. And then the book came out that day, and that is just like my heart kind of
like
poured out.
all that stuff.
It was a lot. I've barely had time to process all of
sure.
this. And
so your mom had Captive too, right? That was another
my
one?
mom's book is Captive.
Yeah. Your Mother's Crusade.
And I read that when I came out.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Was it hard to read that?
Yeah.
But
it was also beautiful because what I got to see, and if you have read or if you've read my mom's book or listened to mine or vice versa, because I think mine is only for Audible exclusively. My mom's
I like that. I'm
yeah.
a terrible reader.
So you could,
I need that.
I like, because I'm dyslexic, I
Right.
listen to a lot of audiobooks because that's a better way for me to absorb information. I do love to read, but it's exclusive for Audible. My mom's
doing that.
is Captive, and you can get it on Audible or in print.
Okay.
And between the two, you can see like that we were going through very similar experiences.
Yeah.
And so it was healing for me to read my mom's book.
Yeah, I imagine. Jeez, this truck is driving me crazy.
Yeah, with the trash.
It's a lot of trash.
So you were in there for 7 years,
Yep.
and now you've been out for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
I know. I'm making up for lost time.
But I don't want to skip your acting because you're in a movie that Derek likes a lot, Starship Troopers.
Oh, I wasn't in that.
You weren't?
No,
it's
okay,
it's a
So that, I know what you're finding. Okay, so Starship Troopers is my stepdad's movie. When I was a kid, he brought us all into the studio to be voices on a Starship Troopers video game.
Oh, okay.
And I got to be a voice of a bomb.
Oh, wow.
And go, wee, woo, when I was like 8. And I was like, this is
Sorry,
amazing.
Derek. She wasn't in
So
Starship
no,
Troopers.
I
Sorry.
was not, I don't consider myself an actress.
Okay. But you were in some things, though.
I was in some things
In
via
a reality show? On
Yeah.
The Princess?
my family. We were kids. We had no choice.
But
We were
how old
under
were you?
duress.
right.
So how old were you when the
I was
reality show was being filmed?
13.
Wow.
Right.
I was 13. I'm kidding. We were not under duress.
Okay.
But it was for Lifetime, ironically.
Yeah,
I
it was.
know,
And-
I
Lifetime.
have a good relationship with Lifetime.
I hope it gets better.
During the lockdown, there was some weird dark hole that I went down. It was
Yeah,
like
you love
Lifetime
Lifetime, huh?
specials, and
Did
it was
you?
like the Lifetime channels. Like
Did you need some like lighthearted stuff?
it's not lighthearted.
It's heavy.
really dark.
Oh,
it's like
right. You're
Lifetime
talking about
channel.
the Lifetime original movies.
Yes.
Those are gnarly.
Like
They're
after school
gnarly.
specials, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like after school specials, but they have the same thing where they have like a flashback.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, let's take it back. You know, they show all the bad stuff first, like in the first minute of the show, and then it's like flashback. and then you get, yeah.
So Miracle of Cards was and stuff like the Vector File.
All
and
of that, I was probably an extra, or
Sci-fi.
I was also a cat wrangler on one of those where I used my own kitten to then go from the floor to a counter,
Okay.
and I got a credit.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
So
no.
Princess Protection Program.
I'm laughing because I think I was a voiceover for that too. I'm laughing because I don't consider myself an actor, but I have had a lot of experience.
That's
Having
great.
sci-fi
And-
noobs.
I feel like that's what makes me good at production.
Okay.
Right.
Because I've literally played every part on the set from craft service to now producer,
I love that.
which is what I feel like you got to do. And that's why I love the restaurant industry too, because you start you start washing dishes and you
love
work
that.
your way up.
Hell yeah.
And I have mad respect for my soon-to-be husband, who is also a chef, because that's his way of working too. So
Yeah.
we work well in that dynamic.
Would you want to direct some more documentaries?
Oh, I'd love to produce and direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've lived it. It'd be so. You have
Yeah,
so much
I think
like
I
all
mean-
this experience here. You know what I mean? Like.
I feel like I've got a sensitivity now to
Right.
certain things that I didn't before.
Well,
So-
that's the one thing that's really incredible. The fact that you went through this horrible ordeal, you know, in order to gain some perspective on who you are. At the end of
Yeah.
the tunnel, though, you actually gained a large amount, a vast
Yeah.
amount.
I would say true. Yeah.
I got
know
an
what I'm s-
education.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
7 years is
Indeed,
a long
you know,
time,
like
man.
really, but in the end, if you look at all the positive things, it
Totally
seems like
positive.
there's
You
really
made it
a
out,
lot.
girl. You made it
Right.
Made it out, and then when I moved back, our house burned down in the Woolsey fires. So it was like that was also 2018. After it was like the first time where I had all of my stuff in one place, because I had been kind of a gypsy and also living in Albany for the past couple of years. So I moved everything back from from New York to California to be with my mom. Was helping her renovate a property.
Yeah.
4 days after we moved in, we lost it to the Woolsey fires, which I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah,
the Woolsey fires.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like the cherry on top in the weirdest of ways, because now we had been stripped of, we had nothing. I had my animals, my sisters, my mom, my computer, and my passport. And like my poor boyfriend at the time he was studying in Italy, and he was like, "Did you get any of my stuff?" And I was like, "No." But if it makes you feel better, I didn't get any of mine either. But I am in
And
your
I'm alive.
and I'm alive. And that's what he said. And he was
Right.
like, "Okay, well, everybody's safe, everyone's alive."
Yeah.
And then we were stripped of all of that stuff, and I just had my family. And so it was like kind of strangely healing, because
I'm sure.
we really got to the bare bones of what our relationships were. But that was just kind of another, curveball in the past couple of years.
A few curveballs in there.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about that?
I want to talk, a
There-
little bit about a family.
Yeah, the royalty,
I
Princess
mean, it's
Elizabeth
pretty
from
interesting.
Yugoslavia.
Yes.
In Yugoslavia, for listeners here, that it doesn't exist anymore. It's separated now, in Serbia
Was that
and
symbol?
Croatia,
Montenegro.
and Montenegro and Croatian. I mean, I grew up with a lot
Slovenia.
of these, and Slovenia, of course. We can't forget Slovenia.
Is there like a symbol for Yugoslavia back then? It was like a.
Well, yeah,
It
it
was
was all
big.
united. It was massive. I mean, you probably know more about the history itself. I mean,
But I have a not to change the subject, but I have a plaque from Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses signed to my son. I think it's from Yugoslavia. It's like the symbol back then before.
back
it
then,
changed.
maybe.
Yeah.
Was
Probably.
it a crest?
Yeah, it was a crest. Yeah, she's right. Yeah.
Probably a
Yeah.
crest.
Yeah.
So there was former Yugoslavia, and
Yeah.
so now I just refer to it as Serbia, or like Serbia Montenegro at one point, and so now it's it's Serbia.
Yeah, it's pretty complex, the history. I love history, and I love the
Too.
history there. And since I grew up in Cleveland.
Can I say you're the smartest metal singer right now?
Oh, stop!
Go ahead.
There's Scott Ian from Anthrax.
You're a
Oh,
singer.
yeah.
You're a singer.
I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a singer.
Yeah, so Derek sings in a very famous metal band called Sepultura from Brazil. I'm sure like your rock and roll old boyfriend who went to Berkeley knows this band if you played metal.
Oh, I have to listen to it.
Legendary
Yeah.
like metal band. Yeah.
He's a Berkeley guy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
enough,
Well,
enough for
he's-
you. Talk about Yugoslavia.
Oh, so anyway, yeah. So there were a lot of kids I grew up with. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I'm from. My parents are from Slovenia, and and they would speak. They were second generation, but
Yeah.
so they could speak the language actually. So there were a lot of people that were from Slovenia, from Croatia, and from Serbia. And then actually having the chance, since we've toured there,
You're gonna play all
and
the
Toby,
places, yeah.
I realized, and also from being once the war was going on
Yeah.
there, I started to really understand a lot of how different the cultures of each of those places, and totally different language, culture, everything, but how it was kind of united for such a long time. And then it broke apart.
Yeah.
But it was just, it's really interesting. I always found that part of the world
Me too.
extremely interesting, and I thought it was incredible that your grandmother coming from that background of Serbian.
Yeah. And she lives there still. She's
Still
there. And
lives
so,
there.
like, I've missed her so much in
man.
COVID, because she usually comes and visits.
She's a powerful
She is
woman,
powerful.
it seems.
Yeah,
I was like,
remember the
wow.
first time you saw her when you get out?
Oh, well, she was helping my mom throughout
Okay.
all
Right.
of it.
Yeah.
So I saw her a couple times, and she really came to my mom's aid when she needed support.
Yeah.
And she kind of acted as a kind of in between for us for
Okay.
a little while. But
That makes sense.
she's lived all over, but she eventually made her way back to Belgrade. That's where she lives, in
Yeah.
the capital
Belgrade.
of Serbia. And so she's been there for years. For a while, she wasn't able to go back to her country because she had been exiled
Exile.
Oh, wow.
when she was 3. And so they had to flee in the middle of the night to get sovereignty in another country. Asylum.
Asylum.
Right.
Yeah, asylum in another country. And so for my grandma, a lot of her life has been about reclaiming that part of her and going back to her roots and getting back into her country. Like right now, this just explains my grandma in a nutshell. During quarantine, my grandma's activity is learning Japanese.
Wow.
So like she's just
must be able
on
to speak
top of
so
it.
many
She
languages
speaks so
already.
many languages. She speaks, I think, 9 languages.
Wow. I was thinking
Yeah,
that. I was like,
and she's just on top of it.
wow.
And so we FaceTime, but it's not the same. I definitely miss her.
And we haven't really, I mean, so tell us a little bit about your father. You know, like I haven't heard anything. I didn't see him so much in the documentaries or anything, and not so much. So how was he in your life?
My dad, well, I have...
Very interesting.
Yeah, I have 2 dads.
Right.
Like I have my stepdad, who's
Right.
Casper, and my real dad, his name Bill.
I'm talking about Bill.
Bill.
Yes.
So
he seems very interesting.
Bill is amazing. And Bill lives, he has been such a wonderful father to me as an adult.
Okay.
And I feel like our relationship really blossomed when I became my own person.
That happened. You're right.
And sometimes I think people often feel resentful of their parents if they weren't really involved as a child.
Yeah.
Right.
But my dad wasn't. My dad was in prison for the first 7 years of my life.
Wow.
He was he sold drugs on a big major scale in marijuana in the 70s and the 80s. And so he did his time, and I remember visiting him when I was a toddler up in Lompoc, and I just didn't have that feeling of like, this is a scary place. This is, my dad is in a bad spot. I just knew my dad was in timeout. Like that was kind of my childish way of viewing it. And so really, I don't associate, like the same way Patrick doesn't associate me with NXIVM, I don't associate my dad with prison. Like my dad has had so many lives, and he's in his 70s now, and he just like rocks it, and he is just, he rides motorcycles, he has golden retrievers, he reads books at night. Like he's just such a dynamic guy.
Right.
And I've learned so much from him, and he stood by me even when he knew I was wrong, because he stood by his kid.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so he and my mom have healed everything that they needed to heal.
Great.
And so there's no animosity there at all. And my dad and I have gotten to another level of respect for each other, because he now knows what I had to go through, where I was hiding everything from him for a long time.
Yeah.
And so now he appreciates that our relationship is really transparent and just straight up.
I thought it was so interesting, because I think a lot of people don't understand your background wasn't so perfect. Like, oh, she's coming from this
her mom was on
Malibu.
Her mom's on
everything's
Dynasty.
perfect and everything is like this.
I mean, I will never deny that I didn't have a lot of privilege, because I grew up with never being hungry, always having love, always being able to go to school, and get an education, all of those things, incredibly privileged, because a lot of people don't.
But at the same time, working your ass off.
Man.
Yeah,
like
and I
many different
young
types
age
of
too,
jobs.
Yeah, and I love to work. And I'm kind of like, that's my personality. I like to hustle, but I definitely had a lot of advantages, but I also had the disadvantages, like you said.
Totally.
And so I think that's why we're going full circle. Like where I started, I feel like being raised here has given me a lot of complications, but a lot of benefits.
Absolutely.
In how I can see the world and how I can navigate things now. But no, it was not always sunshine and roses. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have regrets, or you just consider those things as experiences? Like, do you have any?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
I definitely consider them experiences that I learned from, but I have regrets because, I lost a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can never get that back. So I regret that I brought people in. I regret that there was a majority of my 20s that was lost in NXIVM, but I also know that maybe I wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's commendable that you're out there really trying to save those people that might be
Inspire
suffering,
others.
a lot of the
want
same
to.
feelings. And
Using your voice and platform, man.
I mean,
awesome.
what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I couldn't give 2 shits about Instagram if I didn't feel like it was a place so that I could use this information and
100%.
put it out there. It's just not me.
Right.
I'm more of an introvert, so I like to be like doing my own thing, but I also know that I know too much now.
Yes.
And I feel like I've this is going to be my way out and through.
I feel
And
that.
also
Wow,
it really
yeah.
fuels me.
Right.
Like I get so many messages from people
was
that
gonna ask
are
about that, yeah.
that are like good, bad, and ugly, and some of them are really inspiring. Like some people write, I watched your series and it helped me process my own grief, and that's
Yeah.
like the biggest compliment that I can get.
Of course.
But then there's other things that are really difficult to handle, like when people are talking about their own sexual abuse, and I'm not a counselor, I am not
Yeah.
a licensed therapist. I can only speak to my own experience. So I'm looking to build a strong team of people who can handle these types of things. I have a foundation with my mom. I'm looking for more partnerships. I'm really just trying to pull my resources together because I know that I can do some things, but I can't do everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the questions I
excellent.
asked is like, are you an optimist or pessimist? But I already know that
Optimist.
you're super positive. You're super positive, man.
That I get from my dad.
I love that. And that's the
great.
kind
Yeah.
of people we like to hang out with and stuff.
Yeah.
So to keep people
It's
are
important to
positive
be
and
around that
So it's healthy.
surroundings. Yeah, it's extremely healthy.
everything you've been through. You you're not like a angry like fuck the world. Like you want to help the world and change the world.
Yeah, that's
Fix
not
the world.
me.
Right.
I went through that for a couple months. It was dark.
You did.
It was
Dark,
yeah, it was
right.
dark, and it was just like this isn't gonna get us anywhere. Us meaning me and
Yeah.
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But you've always been a positive person.
Yeah,
Seeing the good in people and
I do.
wanting good things to happen.
to a
and-
fault sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
But
Me too.
also my dad's like that too, and he's had his difficult life as
Mm-hmm.
well, and his path has taken him to some really dark places. But he never loses that optimism.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
Right.
take a lot from him.
Do you have any daily rituals?
Yes.
Are you a coffee person? I know you commented on my coffee issues.
Yeah.
Are you a coffee person?
I am a coffee person. I go between coffee and matcha.
I
So-
like matcha too.
Matcha's-
Yeah.
I
Good.
like that. Sometimes if I'm
Good
feeling
stuff.
really jazzed already, I know I don't need coffee.
Me
Right.
neither,
But
man.
that's one of my main rituals is caffeine.
Okay, I respect that. I'm on
And
that shit too.
Also
I get it.
water. I drink a lot of water in the morning, like first thing, sometimes with lemon or apple cider vinegar.
It's supposed to be good water with lemon. I've been seeing people post that.
And-
Absolutely. It's delicious as well.
This is the advertisement for water and lemon.
Water with lemon.
Yo, and I have a lemon.
Refreshing.
and I have a
revolutionary.
I have a lemon tree. My wife gets lemons.
And
every
I've
day.
had your lemons.
I have,
They're-
good, I have
Also,
nice,
now I know where to come.
whatever you want. I have great lemons.
I love them. They're good for
But
cooking as well.
What else do I do?
Yoga.
Oh,
No.
exercise.
Exercise.
I
yeah.
try to exercise at least 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, super
Excellent.
important.
And I'll take like 1 or 2 days off or just do a long walk on the off days. But that's my therapy.
I like
Walking
it.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Like
we
when
were
you said
taking
you
walks
did-
together
yeah.
on the pandemic, like 4-mile walks.
Yeah.
together.
Right? And isn't it funny to walk in LA? Everyone thinks you're nuts.
It is.
Yeah,
true.
I just moved here not that long ago, like maybe 3 years
Yeah.
ago, and I kept walking around. They're like,
They're like
"Why are you
looking at
walking around?" And I
I
was
know,
like,
it's so funny. I once walked from LAX to Santa Monica to Beverly Hills and back. I was having a really hard day.
Oh.
And I needed it during all of that chaotic
Okay.
time, like in cult time. And I did all that walking, and I think it was like 30 miles in one
Right.
day. And I realized like there's not a lot of shoulders in
No, to walk
in
around.
much of LA, so it's just not a walking town.
It's not.
not
I
a
do miss
walking
living
town.
in New York and walking, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I walk everywhere here as much as possible. I do those like, oh my god, it's been like 7 miles now.
You
or-
don't have a car. You don't even drive yet. So.
Yeah, I don't have a car, so
You don't need it nowadays.
yeah,
You're
it's true.
super East Coaster.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I haven't had a car in like 30 years, bro.
That's nice.
It's time though.
Do you have a bike?
I had a roommate who had a bike, and I was riding that to Venice, and that was really nice. But then now that I'm close to Runyon Canyon, Toby and I
We go like every day.
Oh,
like every
nice.
day. So
It's
been,
open?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
You have to wear a mask in there.
Right.
It's fine.
That's
yeah,
fine.
Right. And they were like,
I love it.
Better
I
than
love it.
nothing.
Yeah.
I know. They closed it for a while. It was really sad.
But it's
that was
really
hard.
just the best way to like really clear your mind. It's
Yeah.
so therapeutic.
for mental everything. Yeah.
And
like,
physically, it's fantastic for your body.
It is.
Yes.
You know, it's just really, you
That-
can be any age and just do it.
Walking and biking and swimming when I was doing like my beginning kind of trauma research.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the main things that they suggest for people who in recovery because it retrains the bilateral parts of your brain to regulate itself to calm down your nervous system.
wow.
So like walking for me has been a big ritual because
Yeah.
it's just like a way to calm my nervous system, even if I'm feeling a little anxious
Yes.
or chaotic.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
so
highly
nice.
recommend it. Doesn't
Me
cost
too.
a penny.
Absolutely
doesn't.
free.
Like
Yeah.
the water and the lemons from your backyard
Yes.
also doesn't cost me a penny.
Is there any type of music you listen to when you walk around or no?
All kinds.
Okay.
It just depends on my mood.
Yeah.
Do you have any top? You have a top 5 or anything of artist or?
Right now,
Yeah,
let's
here
just
we
see.
go.
Let's
Yes.
do right
Let's
now,
just
yeah.
see what I'm listening to. Hold on.
I can see you listening to like new stuff too.
I do.
Some new young.
Oh
Neil
shoot.
Young.
We're,
You
we're
think-
so,
oops,
we're,
sorry.
no, I
It's
said
gonna
new
take
young
a
stuff.
second
Oh.
to turn.
I
You
said,
said
I
Neil
said
Young.
we're old, but like,
Oh, I like Neil Young.
I like old
Yeah.
people
But I
stuff
also
too.
I've really one of the repeat songs has been Fire and Rain for me.
oh yeah,
Um,
Fire and Ice and
I don't know
Rain.
why. Like sometimes he like really gets to me.
Powerful,
I
man.
get it.
And
I seen fire. I seen
I
rain.
love James
James
Taylor.
Taylor.
Taylor's got hits.
And
He's got mad hits.
I mean I've always loved Elton John. I've always
Yeah.
really been a 70s girl
Like
in
Billy
my
I hear
Joel.
ya.
Billy
in my
Joel.
heart. Yes.
Love Billy Joel.
And but I also listen to regular pop, like
How
regular.
about Hall &
pop.
Oates or the Bee Gees?
Yeah, I like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold on, let's see. What
I
am I
see.
listening to?
Derek,
right-
you're turning 50
Florence
this
and the
week.
Machine
Oh, she's great.
has been a big one for me.
Florence and the Machine's
Um,
badass.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
what
No
else do
doubt
I
about
have
that.
on here? Oh, Jewel, I've been listening to
That's
also
2.
recently.
Old
Florence and the
school
Machine, Jewel. Wow.
Like Jewel from back in the day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh
Old
yeah, I'm a
school.
'90s kid.
I love
That
Jewel.
is-
I have Aretha Franklin that I've been playing
That's
recently.
a good
and then
top 3 you got
this.
going on
So, what is that? I don't even
Aretha.
know. There's this other guy that I was listening to.
I
Yeah.
wonder how Jewel's doing. I love
I
Jewel. She has
know.
so many
Jewel,
great
I haven't-
songs.
I know.
She was
She's
fantastic.
actually really cool. I listened to a podcast of her the other day
got a
on the pop culture.
podcast.
No, she doesn't. She
Oh.
did
She
one.
was on one.
for
Okay.
the- I think it's called Pop Culture Show or something.
She's amazing.
And she's just really kind of badass. Who else have I
I
been
seen
listening to?
fire and I seen
Dang, I
rain.
can't find it right now. But it's kind of an electronic guy.
Oh, really?
okay.
Sebastian Paul.
Okay.
Do you know
Is
of
this
him?
somebody new?
Yeah, he looks like that. You see him?
Okay. Yeah.
But
Nice.
really, I have rap on here. I have
What's
James
your- what's
Taylor.
your-
Some
what's
hip hop.
yeah,
What's some
let's-
hip hop you have in there?
What
Let's
do
get
I
down with
have
the
right
hip
here?
hop.
That's what India gets into.
Yeah.
We know she likes 50 Cent.
I do.
Okay.
And I
Yeah, we
also
know
like
that.
Snoop Dogg. I'm
Snoop's the
from
fucking best.
Yeah.
here. Like
Yeah.
Snoop's the best.
that's
Classic.
when I was in middle school. I remember like one of the big things where people would go like Snoop in the hallways, and it would always just be like, wow, we really are from Southern California.
Hell
Oh yeah.
And but no,
Snoop was his shit growing up, though. Snoop, I mean,
Definitely.
He's amazing. He's still
He's
amazing.
amazing.
You follow him on Instagram?
I do.
It's incredible
He's
follow. He's so
hilarious.
funny, man. He's.
Hilarious.
I love
What
Snoop.
Always
Lil
love Snoop.
Baby.
Little
I've been
Baby.
listening
Oh,
to.
shit.
Wow.
My son likes Little
Okay.
Baby.
All right.
I also a lot of Cardi B.
I love
Okay.
Cardi B.
And-
How about Adele? Are you Adele fan?
Yes, Megan.
Here's the $1 million
Obviously.
question. You a Coldplay fan?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
Actually,
probably
Coldplay is on there.
It's my favorite shit.
Would be very upset if you weren't.
No,
I had some people say, fuck Coldplay. I love
Wow.
Really?
Really?
Yeah,
How do you say fuck Coldplay?
Like,
Do you not have a
go
heart?
out of your way.
Pe-
Like
people hate on them hard.
Hate.
Why?
I don't know, man.
It's so beautiful.
It's so positive and wonderful.
I
Great
think
live.
they're just jealous. You know.
They're
yeah,
amazing.
because they can't move women to tears with their
Right.
words.
I think that's what it is.
Exactly.
Envy.
Jealous.
I'm like crying. My son doesn't like it, but he loves it. But it makes him emotional. We have songs together because
Oh.
he grew up listening to Coldplay with me, going to see Coldplay. Like, yeah, they're amazing. Okay, couple of things that I saw you promoting.
Yeah.
Human trafficking stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
So the Katherine Oxenberg Foundation,
Correct.
the Joseph Movement, RAIN, the National Sexual Assault Hotline,
Yeah, huge resource for
Fact
people.
Charity, Families Against Cult Teachings.
Yes. So I'm working with all of those groups right now. Not with RAIN yet, but I'm
Okay.
looking to. I just support them because I think they're great. And they do a lot of amazing work. Fact is wonderful. I've been working with them and my mom and my foundation. And so we're just kind of trying to pull it all together
love
because
that.
like what I said, there's just not a lot of resources in this field right now.
What about when schools are like speaking at schools about stuff?
I'd love to do that.
Okay.
I'd love
I do that with my
to do that.
nonprofit. I haven't done it in a while because of the pandemic, but I go around and speak at schools and it's really fun.
I'd love to speak to people
I can see you
in
doing
high
that.
school, in college. I think this
Yeah,
is
I think it would be great.
I would say
you know,
college
to
would be
see
good
that.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
really.
think especially
so if you have any
universities.
suggestions,
You have a nonprofit status? Is that what you guys are working
Yes.
on? Yeah, me too.
we have that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome.
I love that everything you've been through. Like you're still. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know you personally, but you've been through a lot of stuff, and like just your spirit and your energy you're young, you're vibrant, you're excited about the future, and you've been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But you're still positive, you know.
Really
what I mean?
good
Trying to
vibe.
be. Try to
And you're trying to and using your platform for good and helping people, you know. Because has there been a lot of people that survive cults in this world?
Yeah, but people don't generally talk about it because there's so many stigmas.
Yeah.
Like domestic violence. People have a lot of opinions about women or men who stay in situations like that. And so oftentimes people are silenced and they don't want to talk. So I think this is a new wave of people kind of owning up to some difficult things, and I think it's more helpful to talk about it than to not.
No,
you think
absolutely.
you think it's easier that Keith's in jail for 120 years to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if he was still here, it'd be like,
Oh, I don't know if I would have been. I mean, I was already pretty vocal when I put out Seduced.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
pretty bold.
Yeah.
And he had not been given that sentence, but he was still in jail. So there's many people who are scared because their perpetrators are still out there. There's so many cults that are still running. I was speaking to
Really?
my
Yeah,
therapist
yeah.
yesterday who told me that she's encountered at least a couple thousand, let alone
Wow, man.
hundreds that are just kind of replicas of NXIVM. I mean, they all steal the same modalities.
Right.
They just mask them in different ways.
Right, and they go after the same.
Well, similar. Like people
Okay.
who want, usually a lot of these groups are either selling a product or selling a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's usually people who are open to either of those. And that's a pretty wide range.
That's a huge range. Yeah.
Yeah. So be careful.
I wonder if Allison or Keith have seen Seduced.
I would be
Somehow.
so interested.
I wonder
Good
if
question.
somehow you get like a burnt, like somebody gave him like a laptop in
In
jail.
prison?
I
Like,
don't
yo,
know.
check it out. I got a person.
Listen, I don't know what his
I don't
status-
think that's what they're looking
I
up in
mean,
prison.
I don't know what his
but-
status is out there.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
I wonder
True.
how like
Right.
cult leaders get treated in jail. You know, like people go to jail for like you hurt kids, you rape women, like do harsh things, like you get like
I
they're
don't know.
watching
If,
you.
I mean,
Like,
there's
if
definitely
cult
a
leader in
whole
there-
different law, so I don't know if he's.
I don't think he's
He's in
pretty
solitary?
restricted.
What
Yeah.
state? What state?
Right now, I think he has just been moved to Philadelphia.
Philly?
Yeah, Claire is
Philly.
in Philly
Ooh.
right now. I think he's going to get moved to a sex offender unit in Tucson, which sounds shitty,
That's
but
a wrap.
sounds like a great place.
Usually they happen to people like that. It's a rap. Like that's
Well,
all eyes
I
on,
think
like-
sometimes they try to keep them out of population because they will
yeah,
get
man.
killed
It's no joke, man.
No, it's
in
it's
prison.
it's a real deal. I mean, that's where he is probably going to end up, and that's
Wow.
probably the right place for him.
And how old is this? How old is he?
He is 60, I think.
And then Allison, she'll go to jail for life too.
I don't know. I just don't
I don't remember
know.
what the
I don't know
the
what they'll give
sentences
her.
were.
I mean, human trafficking and stuff like that with slavery is still exists, and a lot of people aren't aware of how massive
But
it
there
is.
are a lot of
If anything,
Not
it's
only
bigger-
in the U.S.
Yeah, no, that's what I
Everywhere.
was going to get
Yeah.
into. Like, it's something that consistently is happening. It's never really stopped.
No,
You
it's
know,
there.
like-
it's just call it modern slavery.
Yes,
it's just
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
like we think we're so above it and we're so beyond it, and we're just not. And
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
I've been working like Joseph
Movement.
Joseph Movement. They're
Yeah.
in Brazil, and they
You should
are
get involved, man.
they're they're so kind, and they're most of them come from like Christian youth organizations, and so they have had direct experience with going into these villages and working with a lot of these communities. Unfortunately, they don't have any other option to make money
Yeah.
besides either trafficking themselves or trafficking their children. So that's
hard.
on us. That's a
Totally.
social problem.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that this still exists is just because we haven't really dealt with
Yeah.
what's going on the ground.
I do
Yep.
see a lot. I do see a lot of celebrities, a lot of people, mostly during this whole lockdown, being online a lot, talking about human trafficking.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people talking about. It
Yeah,
seems more.
I'm glad about that too.
I am too. I mean, it's just, I always hear people like, oh, well, at least we don't have, things have changed over time. It's like, we don't have slavery anymore. And people thought that was bad then. I was like, we still do.
Yeah, and it's
And
a-
it's still bad.
you're
It's-
stealing
Yeah.
people's lives.
Right.
Basically, these people are going in and stealing life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a human rights issue. And so that's why I feel so like motivated, but also really overwhelmed by it. So
Right.
if there's anyone out there who wants to help, I'm open.
Excellent.
I might have somebody could help. Though. I won't say his name on here, but there was somebody from the animal rights movement who went overseas to, for stopping the dog meat
Right.
in Asia. Stumbled upon a child trafficking there and helped shut that down. And I
Good.
think he's kind of involved.
I'm
I'll give you
definitely going to
something
look up the
after, though, yeah.
Brazilian one. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that was
I'll-
from Brazil
Joseph
Joseph movement.
They're so sweet. They're small, but they're so
a lot of
committed.
people reaching out to you now because of that. Are
Yeah.
people trying to make you like the spokesperson for this now?
I mean, I would like to make myself more of a
Yeah.
Right.
spokesperson for a lot of these things,
Yeah.
hopefully, if it's helpful.
Yeah. I love that you're ready to like dedicate your life to that and helping people. And
I just feel like that's the way that I want to handle it. And
Right.
that gives me a lot of peace and satisfaction and just makes me feel like I can use what I went through for good.
yeah,
Otherwise, I mean, obviously I could just kind of go off into my life and be a mom and
Yeah.
go and take more of a simpler route. And maybe I will do that one day. But right now I have the energy and I have the passion and I have the ability to use this platform
Yeah.
now. So I feel responsible to do that.
yeah. Has your life changed since the 2 documentaries?
Yeah, a lot. But I'm still the same.
Yeah. Do you feel like you ever have closure, even though he's in jail? Will there ever be? It's gonna be a life of therapy to
Yeah.
move forward. From,
Yeah, I kind of think, for me, it feels sort of similar to AA. Like,
Yeah.
I just
Right.
think that my life is going to be about like healing and healing my soul and kind of connecting to a higher power, whatever that is. For me, it's
For the
different.
rest of your life.
For the rest of my life, because I think that's something that I lost for a long time and I see the value in it now.
Yeah. Wow, I love this. This is a great conversation. I appreciate
Yeah,
you being here.
thank
It's 2
you.
hours. 2 hours. It's
I
good.
know. I was like, I think I need to pee.
So, I appreciate you. Like we met through social media and just coming to my house and being on my podcast means a lot to
pleasure.
me, and it's an honor to meet you.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
likewise. I
If
mean,
you-
this couldn't have been nicer.
You have an amazing story. And I'm proud of you. Shared it with the world, and then
Yeah,
with,
it's really great
with
to hear.
Seduced as well. Like
Thank you.
just putting everything out there, man. It's
Yep.
pretty amazing. You have more questions, Derek?
I think that's it for me. I mean,
I
we could
got
go on.
everything on my notes, man. I fucking
Great.
on point my notes. You were wonderful again, once again.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me be a part
So
of your
nice to
guys'
meet you.
conversation. Pleasure to meet
And
you
so
as
hopefully,
well.
yeah, we'll see you again in real life after the podcast. And
Yes. We'll
you
continue
for-
the conversation.
how can people
Yeah.
find you? So your Instagram is just your name, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as India Oxenberg, and that's the only social media that I can handle, so you can find me there.
We're only on
More
one
than
too.
enough.
I'm only
Yeah.
on one too. I'm not on any of that shit anymore.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
Facebook, no
Too
Twitter,
much.
right?
I mean, I'm on there, but I'm not active. So if you're trying to reach me there, good luck.
Right.
Do people just DM you and you write them back most of the time?
I'm trying.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is I've gotten so many messages that I
know.
can't
That's why we
get
started
through them
emailing,
all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, can you email me so I don't
Yeah.
lose it? But
I lose them too.
I am working through them, and I want to get to everybody.
I
Yeah.
hear you.
So you're done with the docs. There'll be no more docs about the situation you've been through. it.
Not about NXIVM,
Okay.
but I would like to continue to explore coercion
Right.
and talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe soon to come.
Great.
I love that.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to the next one.